Elite Facts presents
10 horrific crimes inspired by popular films.
10.
Scream. It's pretty safe to say that Wes Craven's 1996 film was a groundbreaking moment in horror movie history. Scream was a tongue-in-cheek parody of the genre's tropes that still managed to be horrifying. In fact, it was so creative and innovative that, according to an American judge, the film was a, quote, very good source to learn how to kill someone, and it did indeed inspire a series of copycat murders. The most notorious was that of Belgian teen Alison Cambier. She had befriended 24-year-old Thierry Jaredin and was visiting him in his home one day when he propositioned her. After she refused, he excused himself to another room where he donned the iconic Ghostface costume. He selected 2 large knives, which he used to stab Cambier 30 times, in the same manner as the victim in the film's opening scene. After he did what he set out to do, he made a few phone calls, confessed to the crime, and later admitted to police that he'd planned the incident modeled after the film. Authorities were shocked and disgusted by Jaredin's actions, given that he had no criminal record or history of mental illness, except apparently a habit of trying to pick up 15-year-old girls.
9.
Fight Club. Fight Club is such a good movie. Sure, some people don't understand it, but it is without a doubt an underrated gem when you do get it. David Fincher's 1999 film adaptation of Chuck Palahniuk's gritty debut novel struck a chord with men who felt they'd been neutered by Western society. Fight Club's world of underground bare-knuckle boxing matches and organized terrorism was terribly attractive, and it was only a matter of time before the fact that it was also terribly illegal was no longer any real concern. The most serious crime committed in relation to this film was in New York City over Memorial Day weekend in 2009. Homemade bombs were set off in various locations around the city, including a Starbucks on the Upper East Side, apparently modeled after the film's destruction of businesses they considered symbolic of their oppression. These bombings that took place were eventually traced to a man named Kyle Shaw, a member of a local fight club, after he bragged about it to his peers. Thanks to the popularity of this film, fight clubs have started to pop up all over the world, among populations as diverse as American software developers, Australian schoolboys, and British prisons.
8.
American Psycho and Silence of the Lambs. In 2004, 14-year-old Michael Hernandez decided it was a good idea to stab one of his middle school classmates to death. Hernandez admitted to modeling his behavior after the serial killers in American Psycho and Silence of the Lambs. The South Florida teen said he identified with the horror movie murderers and wanted to act out their roles in his real-life plan to become a serial killer. Hernandez believed God gave him special powers and agreed with his decision to kill his classmate. In 2008, while still in his teens, he was charged with first-degree murder.
7.
Interview with a Vampire. Okay, now this one is something strange to say the least. I mean, you wouldn't expect to see any crimes inspired by the 1994 adaptation of the Anne Rice classic that mortals could actually reenact. Well, David Sterling and his girlfriend of 8 years, Lisa Stellwagen, watched the movie together on November 17, 1994. That night, Lisa woke up at about 3:00 a.m. to find Daniel staring at her. He told her, quote, "Tonight you're going to die. I'm going to kill you and drink your blood." At which point, she apparently rolled over and went back to sleep, possibly murmuring, "That's nice, dear," because it wasn't until later that day that Daniel stabbed her 7 times and sucked the blood from her wounds. It's curious, however, that the court case didn't go into specifics on why she didn't run out of bed screaming immediately, like a normal person probably would have. Daniel was kind enough to make it clear that he didn't blame the movie, although he admitted it did influence his plan. As you'd expect, however, the jury didn't buy it as a defense, though, and was swiftly convicted of attempted first-degree murder, among several other charges.
6.
First Blood. First Blood is a freaking awesome film. However, you have to admit that it may have been a bit too far-fetched when closely observing some of the action sequences and questioning how an entire police force and eventually the freaking military couldn't take down John Rambo. The 1982 action film was a bleak portrayal of the damage the Vietnam War had inflicted upon young American men, personified by Sylvester Stallone's John Rambo. He's accosted by police, chased into the woods, and relentlessly pursued after accidentally killing an officer. Eventually, he's driven to gunning down huge swaths of the town. There were many police reports in the wake of the first film of young men attempting to imitate their hero, John Rambo. Now let's make things clear here. John Rambo is a hero with regard to what he did in the military during the war, but what he did during the first film should not be classified as something heroic, and that there are people who would actually try to imitate his actions from the first film is pretty scary to think about. These reports were said to be primarily in the Canadian wilderness. One man, dressed in army fatigues and a red headband, was shot to death in a standoff with police after killing an officer. Another, an 18-year-old man in the Toronto area, was found lurking in a swampy ravine wearing khakis and face paint and carrying a music stand. Yet another, also dressed in army clothes and a painted face, was pursued for 2 weeks in the Ontario woods while he launched rocks with a slingshot, just like Rambo, except this guy was launching them at children. The film's creators disowned any responsibility for the crimes, but while psychologists agree that the movie wasn't to blame, it certainly provided an ill-suited role model to these deranged men.
5.
Heat, 1995. So, oddly enough, this shootout was completely inspired by the epic shootout scene from the 1995 film Heat. Larry Phillips and Emil Matasareano attempted to rob the North Hollywood Bank of America in February of 1997. These two men were heavily armed with fully automatic AK-47s, homemade body armor, and medication known as phenobarbital to calm their nerves. To hide their identities, they put on ski masks and entered the bank at 9:17 a.m. The shootout between the robbers and the police took 44 minutes, with casualties including 10 police officers and 7 civilians seriously wounded. In the end, however, the two robbers were gunned down by police reinforcements despite having heavier artillery.
4.
The Dark Knight. We've never truly understood why everybody wanted to be the Joker. Sure, he's a fun villain, but he's exactly that, a villain. Everyone knows about the tragedy in Colorado where an orange-haired man cried, "I am the Joker," before shooting up a movie theater full of Batman fans during the 2012 premiere of the final Christopher Nolan Batman film, The Dark Knight Rises. The incident saw the deaths of 12 people and multiple casualties. This man, however, is not the only Joker-inspired guy who wanted to inflict nothing but carnage. In 2010, a Wisconsin man was sentenced to almost a year in jail after he broke into his cousin's home and assaulted him while dressed as the Joker. The man had suspected his cousin of sleeping with his ex-girlfriend and attacked the two of them when he found them in bed together. It's doubtful the Joker would approve because, while that's a terrible motive, it makes entirely too much sense for an insane character like the Joker. Much more Joker-like incident occurred in 2009 when a teacher fended off an attack from an Indiana high school student. The girl came at the teacher with a razor blade, but not before she had excused herself to the bathroom to apply Joker-style makeup and slice her cheeks into his trademark smile. That is just messed up.
3.
A Nightmare on Elm Street. Wes Craven once again makes it on the list. Wes Craven is a genius when it comes to the horror genre. However, his films always tend to bring some sort of controversy with their release. The famous 1980s horror film Nightmare on Elm Street was the inspiration for Daniel Gonzalez's killing spree. In 2004, the paranoid schizophrenic went on a drug-fueled rampage and murdered 4 random people, including a doctor and his wife. Gonzalez decided to arm himself with several knives and copy Freddy Krueger's outrageous killing spree. Official reports claimed that Gonzalez did not receive proper treatment for his mental condition. He was given 6 life sentences for the 4 murders as well as 2 attempted murders throughout England. In 2007, Gonzalez committed suicide in his cell.
2.
A Clockwork Orange. It should come as no surprise that this film has caused a lot of controversy. Hell, this film pretty much is controversy. Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange has been the inspiration for many twisted real-life crimes, specifically throughout Britain. The crimes have all exhibited similarities with the film, but one of the most bizarre cases involved a man named John Ricketts, who was dressed up as a Drood from A Clockwork Orange and assaulted a woman dressed as Little Britain's Vicky Pollard at an office party. The violent movie was banned from UK cinemas because of the increase in violent crimes following its release.
1.
Taxi Driver. This one is, without a doubt, one of the most infamous examples of crimes that were inspired by a film. This film influenced the crime itself and caused the criminal to do what he did. In this 1976 Martin Scorsese classic, Robert De Niro plays a mentally unstable Vietnam War veteran named Travis Bickle, who works as a nighttime taxi driver in New York City, where the perceived decadence and sleaze feeds his urge for violent action, and he attempts to save a pre-adolescent prostitute, played by Jodie Foster, and assassinate a politician in the process. Most sane people can watch this film and just enjoy it, but John Hinckley Jr. was not your typical sane person. Hinckley believed that Travis Bickle was talking to him through the film. So what did he do next? In order to impress actress Jodie Foster, he attempted to assassinate President Ronald Reagan in 1981.
Don't forget to like us and subscribe for more Elite Facts.